Good morning. This is a test to see how I can communicate in more ways than just voice. There's a lot to teach as we go forward on the Egerton University plan. Uh, and I've been giving that quite a bit of thought. One of the things, of course, is that the university program and the 200 acres they have set aside is unique and will need infrastructure and other things around it in order to work. And we're trying to figure out how to create like classrooms and professorial level, learning at the Egerton campus. But what we're also going to have to do is create a private community that is attached to the Egerton thing. And we need to, major note, we need to get a plat of the land that they have available so that we can do a master plan that involves all of that, and we know where we have to put infrastructure and where we have room to put infrastructure, like solar fields, for example, where we have room to facilitate private business participation in an integrated electricity, energy, water, wastewater, infrastructure situation. But along with that, that needs to be, and that private business needs to be the hub of what will become a private electricity distribution microgrid that we're going to be able to pull off, unlike others have been able to pull off, because we are going to go out with satellites that are kind of full service but smaller areas where we can bring the cooperative credit in and have circularize the economy by having refrigerated storage, and also by combining a dual market, meaning having a market where we can provide and direct deal with the smallholder farmers with seed, feed, fertilizer, and other farming equipment, without having the middlemen and brokers and so forth that have kept the farmers from being productive. But the magic in this that I discovered when I was over before is that one of the things the farmers are lacking most is a fair market. When their vegetables all grow and they're ripe and they have to sell them, they have to sell to whoever comes around at virtually whatever price in order to sell the produce before it spoils. And so they're locked into desperation. But my vision for the satellites is that we would have them on like 10-kilometer centers. They would be fully refrigerated and functional as storage units for both milk and produce with temperature control. But we also have the banking there where we can both loan the farmers money to grow the produce, have them grow produce that is going to be what our processing plants need, but also be able to pay them on the spot when they bring in fresh produce. And we can pay them a fair price because then we're going to have the ability to refrigerate that milk and produce until we can have cooperative operated and managed gathering trucks that go around to our satellites and aggregate the products to bring back to food processing. And it can do that in refrigerated trucks so that we have the supply chain functionally from the farmer to the satellite, and then from the satellite to the processing in two links. But the key, in my mind, above all, is that we are able to provide a fair market for the produce when it's ripe and at its best, so that we can keep it that way until we can get it to storage, which will be maybe 50 miles away. We don't know. But in the meantime, their access to both supplies, market, potable water, all of those things will be no more than 5 kilometers from where they're growing. So that this is within borough range, out and back in a day, whatever transportation they have, which, ideally will improve more and more as infrastructure around the satellite grows. But by having not marking up and making unfair the feed, seed, fertilizer, and supplies, not charging punitive interest rates, which we can afford to not charge punitive interest rates, because guess what? We're the customer, okay? They're going to grow food that we're going to help them grow, and then they're going to bring it back and sell it to us, and all we have to do is deduct the realistic costs from what they're making on their produce, which will leave them enough money to pay a realistic price for more seed, fertilizer, and so forth, which should grow almost an exponentially productivity situation, because we're adding all those cuts that are going off into space with brokers and traders and all that stuff, we're adding that back into the equation. And our cost of goods sold is going to be outstanding, because we don't have to suffer the spoilage and so forth. And at the same time, the products that we're going to be making in the processing centers are Western world USDA quality products using the best possible equipment to make the best products. We don't have to kind of do like the primitive farming processing that has become customary everywhere but the main big processing centers, or not at all in Kenya. We can put that together at that level of quality, so our goods that we'll have for sale or export are going to be of the highest possible caliber and quality, which will also fetch the highest possible price and suffer the least losses. So we're going to be adding a lot of income back in, and then with that extra income, we're also going to be able to pay for the communities, the schools, the health care, because we're making more money on the farmers. The farmers are making more money, but under our management, that money will also be cycled back into building the educational infrastructure, which we desperately need to teach farmers how to be more productive. Even the elementary, getting these, the young kids learning to read and write by the time they're 8 years old. We can do that with refrigerated satellites. We can do health clinics, because we can refrigerate vaccines and other things that need to be refrigerated at these health clinics. And we can do all of that as part of the bigger system. But the system is something that we need to master plan, because it takes 20 or 30 or 40 different perspectives of knowledge to put all this together, which we can do in the private situation, but we can't do dealing with vendors who sell one or two pieces of equipment or university courses or things that are limited to a specialty. We have to be able to have all of the knowledge and all of the, let's call it experiential knowledge that we can bring together, whether you call it a skunk works or whatever, but it can all be collaborating as it would in a Western economy to make the best of everything and the highest quality of everything. Because we're going to have reliable electricity at an affordable price, which is precisely what has allowed Western food processing to be of such high caliber and, just regular and add the value, like in California, get the value multiples. We're going to be able to do that. And because of that, we should be able to get lots of support from foreign companies because we're going to be able to buy their equipment. Whereas a bunch of smallholder farmers or, those people will never get to where they can actually afford the top quality equipment simply because they don't have the circular economy that has also the revenue stream, the revenue component. That's a higher level for higher quality revenue component that then goes back to pay for making the products that we can process to generate the revenue. So it's extremely complex and complicated to anyone who has dedicated their life to specializing on one thing. Now, I have spent my entire life deeply learning the different stakeholders of all the kinds of businesses and projects I've been involved. So what I've learned that's in my head, is hundreds of perspectives that I can bring, and my perspectives are not expert level, but I know when we need experts, I know where to put them, and we don't need to just hire consultants that are going to wander around their department deciding who's going to write the report. So anyway, that's kind of my strategy for today. I really hope that I can upload this to YouTube and share it with all of us that are team members on the private development and master plan development that we can do because of our complete coordination and synchronization. Whereas governments and universities, they simply can't do that.